This is Chuck's family. Wife Gina, son Dakota, daughter Dani, and me.
Meet Chuck Norris's 5 children, Mike, Dina, Eric, Dakota, and Danalee, and discover what they're up to in 2025. From film sets to racetracks, martial arts tournaments to moments of quiet reflection, each one has carved a path that honors their legendary father while defining their own identity.
Hi, I'm Chuck Norris. This is my son, Dakota. So anyway, Dakota and I are going to work on some of the exercises that helps him in his martial art and his gymnastic training.
They share the same last name, but not the same story. Some chase danger, some chase peace, and some are still learning what it means to grow up in the shadow of a living legend. Because behind the fame, behind the Hollywood myth, is a family built on discipline, resilience, and the constant drive to be better. And what they've done with that legacy in 2025 might surprise you. Mike Norris. If the Norris legacy were a film, its opening scene would belong to the eldest son, the one who turned his father's discipline into storytelling, who learned that the camera could capture strength the same way a dojo could shape it. Let's start with him. Mike Norris, the first to step out from behind the legend and build a legacy of his own. Mike Norris was born on October 4, 1962, into a world where discipline and spectacle were inseparable from daily life. While other children fell asleep to lullabies, his nights were scored by the rhythmic thud of kicks against heavy bags and the sharp crack of wood breaking under his father's fist. In the Norris home, martial arts wasn't a hobby, it was a heartbeat. Hollywood, with all its lights and cameras, was its rhythm. From an early age, Mike learned that strength had structure, that precision had purpose. His father's lessons weren't about aggression, they were about control. Chuck often said, "Power without discipline is chaos." For Mike, that became law. By his teenage years, Mike's mastery of Tang Soo Do and Taekwondo had earned him a black belt under the relentless supervision of his father. At 16, he stepped onto a film set for the first time in The Student Teachers, 1973, performing alongside his father and discovering the delicate interplay between action and presence. The experience changed everything. Under the hot studio lights, Mike discovered that performance and combat shared the same core truth. Timing was everything. Every punch, every camera movement, every breath had to land exactly right. The 1980s marked the emergence of Mike's own identity in action cinema. His breakout role in Born American, 1986, proved he was more than just Chuck Norris's son. It made him a legitimate action star in his own right. The film's raw energy and moral undertones hinted at what would define his career: action with purpose. A few years later, Delta Force 3, The Killing Game, 1991, cemented his reputation as a disciplined, authentic screen presence who could handle both the physical and emotional weight of a story. Yet it was Walker, Texas Ranger, 1993 to 2001, where his artistry truly flourished. Working alongside his father, Mike found the perfect balance between family legacy and individual artistry. He didn't just act, he helped choreograph fight sequences, refining every strike and movement until it felt real, not rehearsed. Viewers could sense the difference. Behind the punches and perfectly timed roundhouse kicks, there was something else: mutual respect. A father and son who had built their bond not through words but through shared rhythm, sweat, and unspoken understanding. As his career matured, Mike sought to tell stories that reflected not only action, but also heart. He wanted to tell his own stories, ones that explored faith, morality, and the quiet battles that defined everyday life. Founding Second Fiddle Entertainment in his late 20s, he created films that married moral depth with cinematic excitement. From Birdie and Bogey, 2004, to I Am Gabriel, 2012, and The Crossroads of Hunter Wilde, 2019, Mike carved a niche that was distinctly his own, one that blended cinematic spectacle with spiritual substance. His films didn't just entertain, they tried to uplift. And while critics often focused on his lineage, those who looked closer saw a creator determined to redefine what it meant to carry a famous name. Today, in 2025, Mike Norris is 62 years old and still creating, both on camera and behind it. Based in Dallas, Texas, he runs his production company while mentoring young filmmakers and martial artists. Married to Valerie Norris since 1992, they have raised 3 children, Hannah, Max, and Greta, some of whom are stepping into his cinematic world, whether on set or behind the camera. For Mike, filmmaking and family are no longer separate. They're one and the same, extensions of discipline, creativity, and love. He still teaches martial arts when time allows, reminding students that the fight isn't about defeating someone else. It's about mastering yourself. More than 6 decades after those first nights spent listening to his father train, Mike Norris stands as proof that legacy isn't just inherited. It's built, one frame, one scene, and one disciplined choice at a time. And while Mike's world revolves around cameras and storytelling, his younger brother lives by the speed of an engine. A man who turned danger itself into an art form. Eric Norris, Life in the Fast Lane. If Mike inherited his father's discipline, Eric inherited his fire. Born on May 20th, 1965, Eric Scott Norris grew up in the same house of structure, drills, and expectation. But while Mike gravitated toward cameras and choreography, Eric was drawn to speed, danger, and the split-second precision of risk itself. Even as a teenager, he was fascinated not just by martial arts but by motion, how timing, balance, and control applied just as much to an engine as to a roundhouse kick. While most kids were memorizing movie quotes, Eric was studying mechanics, memorizing the hum of horsepower and the language of velocity. He trained in Tang Soo Do and earned his black belt under his father's instruction, learning the Norris family mantra, "There's no such thing as almost." But his true arena wasn't the dojo, it was the track. After graduating from La Mirada High School in 1983 and briefly attending Arizona State University, Eric realized the classroom couldn't contain his curiosity for motion. He chose a life where milliseconds mattered and mistakes came at 200 miles per hour, professional stunt work, and motorsport racing. Courage and absolute precision are mandatory. By the early 1990s, he had become one of Hollywood's most trusted stunt drivers and coordinators. Behind the cameras of Mission Impossible 2, Gone in 60 Seconds, and Walker, Texas Ranger, Eric was the man behind the wheel, orchestrating explosions, flips, and high-speed chases with surgical control. Every frame of chaos the audience saw was, in truth, a dance of mathematics and nerve, a mastery honed under his father's watchful eye. His work earned him a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Stunt Coordination in 2002, recognition from an industry that rarely pauses long enough to applaud its daredevils. Yet Eric's pursuit of speed was never confined to film. He chased real-world danger across off-road deserts and paved tracks alike. He wanted to test himself in the real world, without retakes, without camera rigs. In the 1990s, he competed in the SCORE Off-Road Series, and in 2003, he conquered the Baja 1000 in the Pro Truck category, one of motorsport's most punishing races. Later, in NASCAR, he claimed the West Series championship, proving that he didn't just play with danger, he mastered it. Through it all, Eric embodied the same discipline that defined his father. Only his dojo was paved in asphalt and rimmed with fire. Each stunt, each race, each skid across metal and flame was a meditation in control, a battle against chaos itself. Today, at 60, Eric balances his high-octane pursuits with a grounded family life. He works as a stunt coordinator, driver coach, and mentor, guiding younger professionals through the razor-thin margin between glory and injury. And at home in California, he's just a dad and a husband. Married to Stephanie since 1993, he has raised 4 children, Cameron, Chloe, Chance, and Cash, instilling values of discipline, humility, and integrity. To them, he is not the man flipping cars through fire or crossing deserts at breakneck speed. He is the father who attends school recitals, helps with homework, builds model engines in the garage, and tells them that courage isn't doing something dangerous. It's doing something dangerous with discipline. Eric Norris is, in every way, his father's son, but not his reflection. Where Chuck mastered motion through strikes and kata, Eric found that same truth in velocity and flame. His legacy isn't measured in trophies or credits, but in how precisely he walks the line between control and chaos, and always wins. And while Eric built his legacy through risk and motion, another Norris found her power in something quieter, the courage to seek out truth and rebuild what time had taken away. Dena Norris, Reunion and Forgiveness. Long before Hollywood lights and martial arts legends, there was a different story in the Norris family, one that unfolded quietly, far from cameras and applause. It begins not with fame or fortune, but with absence. Dina DiCioli, later known as Dena Norris, was born in 1963. The daughter Chuck Norris never knew during his early years of struggle and service. While he was stationed overseas, building the foundation of a dream that would one day define him, Dina was growing up in another world entirely, one without answers, where the idea of father was more rumor than reality. As a child, she occasionally glimpsed the man who shared her blood, a face on movie posters, a name whispered on talk shows, a legend whose world seemed galaxies away from her own. But for Dina, those sightings weren't admiration. They were questions. Who am I? Does he know I exist? She buried those questions for years, focusing instead on building a life of purpose. In her early 20s, Dina built a life rooted in care and compassion. She trained as a registered nurse, specializing in geriatric and rehabilitation care, and later moved into healthcare administration in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She married, raised a family, and for years carried her unanswered questions quietly beneath routines, responsibilities, and work. She poured herself into helping others heal, even as part of her own story remained unresolved. Her compassion became her armor, quiet proof that even without recognition, one could still live with dignity and grace. Everything changed when she was 26. In 1990, DNA testing confirmed what she had long suspected. Chuck Norris was her father. Hesitant but determined, she reached out. The response she received surprised her. Chuck did not hesitate. He accepted her as his daughter, extending an invitation to meet, to connect, and to reclaim lost time. Their first encounter, captured years later in family photos, was quiet but profound. Tearful smiles, a tentative embrace, and a sense that time itself had paused long enough to allow forgiveness to breathe. From that moment, Dina became an official part of the Norris family. She gradually formed bonds with her half-brothers Mike and Eric, and later with Chuck's younger children, Dakota and Danilee. Family holidays and reunions, once foreign to her, became spaces of connection, laughter, and shared history. Dina did not seek the spotlight. It was about finally being seen. She remained anchored in her profession, her role as a mother, and her own path of service and compassion. By 2025, Dina is 62, living a life of quiet impact in Texas. She continues to mentor young nurses, contributes to charitable work supporting veterans and single mothers, and honors the values instilled in her through both her upbringing and her father's military legacy and personal history. She doesn't seek cameras or attention, she seeks meaning. Her life stands as a reminder that courage doesn't always wear gloves or perform stunts. Sometimes it simply writes a letter, asks a question, and chooses forgiveness over resentment. Among all of Chuck Norris's children, Dina's story may be the most human, a journey not of combat or competition, but of reconciliation. In a family defined by strength, hers is the quiet kind, the kind that heals. And as Dina found peace through truth, another generation of Norris children was rising, twins who would carry the family's martial arts legacy into a new century, each in their own way. One would step into the arena, the other would master calm. Dakota Norris, martial arts prodigy. The rhythmic swish of fists and the measured thump of feet against polished hardwood fill the sunlit dojo. Sweat glints under the overhead lights as Dakota Norris, born August 30th, 2001, flows through a kata sequence with the precision of decades of practice embedded in every motion. Each stance, each kick, each controlled breath carries the weight of a legacy almost 2 decades in the making. As the youngest son of Chuck Norris and Gina O'Kelly, for Dakota martial arts wasn't introduced, it was inherited. From the moment he could stand, he watched his father's silhouette move through morning drills, deliberate, balanced, unbroken. Where most children learned bedtime stories, Dakota learned kata. By age 8, he began formal training in Tang Soo Do and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, eventually earning a third-degree black belt in Tang Soo Do and a black belt in Chun Kuk Do, the martial arts system founded by his father. At 15, he and his twin sister Danilee achieved black belts side by side, bowing together on the same polished floor that had echoed with their father's footsteps decades earlier. It wasn't just tradition, it was legacy reborn. As the years unfolded, Dakota's mastery grew into something remarkable. By 2025, at 23, Dakota has already claimed victories in multiple national and international tournaments, including podium placements in the World Championships of the United Fighting Arts Federation, UFAF, exhibition appearances at the World Combat Games, and the Los Angeles Open Martial Arts Championships. His spinning hook kicks and soaring crescent jumps have become viral highlights, not for spectacle, but for the uncanny precision that seemed carved into his DNA. But what sets Dakota apart isn't only his skill, it's his philosophy. He doesn't view martial arts as performance, but as lifestyle. When asked about fame, he once said, "The goal isn't to be seen, the goal is to be better." That quiet statement carries the weight of his upbringing. Discipline first, spotlight second. Yet Dakota's dedication extends far beyond competition. After high school, he pursued studies in kinesiology and sports science, exploring the mechanics of movement, endurance, and injury prevention. He teaches and mentors at Kickstart Kids, the program founded by his father to instill discipline and self-respect in Texas public school students. There, he trains young practitioners, shares lessons on perseverance, and quietly continues the Norris family mission of transforming lives through martial arts. Despite his physical prowess and public recognition, Dakota has resisted the lure of Hollywood. Casting agents have sought him for stunt and action roles, impressed by his athletic frame, camera presence, and natural charisma, but he remains grounded. Martial arts isn't a platform for fame, it's a lifestyle, he has explained. Off the mats, he meditates, hikes, studies, and trains twice daily, cultivating discipline over distraction and purpose over publicity. Dakota's journey illustrates a principle at the heart of the Norris legacy. Strength is inherited, but character is earned. He carries his father's calm intensity, his mother's grounded faith, and a generational discipline that feels ancient and new all at once. To the casual eye, Dakota is a competitor, but to those who know the Norris story, he represents something deeper. The bridge between tradition and transformation, proof that the spirit of martial arts isn't about fame or film, but the endless pursuit of mastery. And while Dakota thrives in the spotlight of tournaments and training halls, his twin sister Danilee pursues a quieter, introspective path, demonstrating that resilience and power can exist beyond cameras, applause, or accolades. Danalie Norris, strength behind the scenes. Where Dakota steps into the spotlight, Danalie Norris has always followed a quieter path, one rooted in privacy, learning, and internal mastery. Born on August 30th, 2001, alongside her twin brother, Danilee grew up in a home where discipline, faith, and personal responsibility were not lessons on a wall but principles lived daily. While Dakota found focus in motion, Danilee found it in stillness. She was introspective, observant, and precise, the kind of child who noticed rhythm in the pauses between sound. In a family known for physical mastery, her gift was presence. From her earliest years, she trained in martial arts under the guidance of her father, Chuck Norris, and mother, Gina O'Kelly, both black belts and co-founders of the Kickstart Kids program. By her mid-teens, she had earned black belts in Tang Soo Do and Chun Kuk Do, the system founded by her father. She competed locally and regionally, not for medals or recognition, but to refine technique, cultivate self-control, and master the subtle art of discipline. Even then, her strength was unmistakable, not in force, but in focus. While others sought the applause, she sought balance. Unlike Dakota, who thrived in competitions and public exhibitions, Danilee gravitated toward academia and introspection. After graduating high school around 2019, she pursued studies in health sciences and psychology, exploring the intersection of body, mind, and martial arts. It wasn't the path of adrenaline, but of awareness, the kind that builds endurance from the inside out. By 2025, at 23, she balances education with teaching martial arts part-time at local studios and youth outreach programs linked to her family's charity efforts. Students describe her as calm, focused, and quietly unshakable. Her lessons extend far beyond combat. They're lessons in discipline, patience, and self-respect. Through her, the Norris legacy evolves from power to presence. Danalee's achievements are quieter but no less significant. They are measured not in trophies or media attention, but in composure, resilience, and intentional living. She has deliberately avoided Hollywood, professional fighting, and public careers, instead channeling her family's legacy into personal mastery and service to others. In a family built on motion, her stillness is what stands out. In doing so, she demonstrates that strength can exist without spectacle, and influence can flourish without a spotlight. She is the reflection of her father's wisdom, proof that real mastery doesn't shout, it resonates. The Norris legacy continues through her in a form both rare and necessary. Quiet power. Where Dakota embodies movement, Danalee embodies meaning. Together, they are the twin pulse of a name that still inspires discipline across generations. The Norris family today. The Norris family of 2025 is a study in contrasts, continuity, and quiet cohesion. On the surface, the family is emblematic of legacy, martial arts, Hollywood, high-speed stunts, and a lineage shaped by discipline and courage. But beneath the headlines and public appearances lies something rarer, a shared rhythm of purpose that binds 5 very different lives together. Chuck Norris, now in his early 80s, remains the patriarch whose influence touches every corner of the family. His teachings, discipline, respect, perseverance, have become a living curriculum for his children. Even now, friends say Chuck still trains at dawn, reminding everyone that discipline doesn't age, it endures. Yet the household is not a rigid echo of his own past. It is a space where each child has interpreted that legacy in their own way. Mike Norris, the eldest, has translated martial discipline into creativity, producing, directing, and acting in films that reflect his own vision. Eric Norris channels the family's drive into velocity and risk, mastering both Hollywood stunts and real-world racing. Where Mike builds stories frame by frame, Eric lives his at 200 miles per hour, 2 sons chasing excellence from different angles of the same fire. Dina Norris, the eldest daughter, embodies reconciliation and emotional strength. Having discovered her place in the family later in life, she now participates in family gatherings, offering balance and a quieter perspective that complements her siblings' public exploits. Her presence reminds them that strength isn't always about impact. It's sometimes about forgiveness. Dakota and Danilee, twins born into a world already defined by legacy, show that the next generation can honor tradition while forging personal paths. Dakota thrives in martial arts competitions and public demonstrations, while Danilee embraces a more introspective, disciplined life focused on education and mentorship. Together, they represent the living evolution of the Norris legacy, motion and mindfulness, perfectly balanced. Public reports, social media posts, and occasional interviews paint a picture of a family that, while unusually disciplined and achievement-driven, remains close-knit. Vacations, holidays, and informal gatherings reportedly include everyone, from Chuck and Gina to the youngest grandchildren, offering moments of humor, encouragement, and shared ritual. Those glimpses, often simple family photos or birthday clips, resonate more than any action scene ever could. Observers have often speculated on how fame, wealth, and legacy influence their relationships. Some allege that the pressures of Hollywood, martial arts careers, and public scrutiny occasionally create tension. Yet, consistently, the family appears to navigate these challenges with a combination of humor, structure, and loyalty that outsiders rarely see. It's not perfection that holds them together, it's shared discipline. The Norris family today is a living testament to balance, ambition, and humility, public achievement and private dedication, inherited legacy and individual identity. They are not merely descendants of a legend, they are proof that legacy can evolve without losing its heart. They are a network of lives intertwined by shared values, learned resilience, and an almost tangible sense of purpose. In 2025, the Norris story isn't about what Chuck built, it's about what his children continue to build. Theirs is a story that continues to unfold, blending the extraordinary with the everyday, and the public persona with the private heart of family. And as 2025 unfolds, one truth stands firm. Strength runs in the Norris blood, but legacy lives in the choices they make. What do you think about his children's achievements? Would you consider it hard to live under such a prominent name? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Until next time.